So hello everyone. I hope everybody can hear me well. If anyone is listening to this lesson. So today, me and Inessa will try to give you some insights on writing an for and against essay. So the structure of the consultation is that first we will tell you what the language of for and against the essay is. Then I will move on to the structure of for and against essay. Then we will give you some useful linking words. Oops. Yes, and then we will move on to actually writing an introduction, then writing a conclusion, and at the end we will give you some examples on actual essays. So yes, so the language of for and against essay is formal, and in this essay you have to discuss both advantages and disadvantages. So as this is a formal essay, you are not allowed to use any contractions, and preferably you shouldn't use any pronouns except in the conclusion paragraph where you have to state your opinion, but it's not necessary. So about this, Ines will tell you later. Um, and then you have to you have to have a firm text and paragraph structure, and it's also to keep in mind that you have to make your essay kind of a flow with information. So yes, so the structure of for and against essay is as stated here. So in introduction paragraph, you have to write a short summary on the topic without giving your opinion, as your opinion should be stated. I don't think it's necessary to state your opinion in the conclusion paragraph, but in introduction paragraph, you cannot give your opinion about this topic. So then you will move on to the first body paragraph, and in this paragraph you have to give arguments for so positive arguments, then any justifications, and going to the end of this paragraph, you must provide some examples or reasons that that your arguments are based on. In the second body paragraph, you have to provide arguments against and also justifications and or reasons. And in conclusion, you have to balance consideration and give your opinion on the topic directly or indirectly. So now linking words. So it's really useful to have in mind some linking words to connect the sentences and to start and end the paragraphs. So, for example, to list points, you can use firstly, first of all, to begin, to start with, secondly, finally. To list advantages, you can use such linking words as one, advantage of, another advantage of, further advantage of, an additional advantage of. Also, the main advantage is, the greatest advantage is, and the first advantage is, and then move on, the second advantage is, and etc. To list disadvantages, also you can use the same as to list advantages. So yes, just another thing that you have to remember to use an additional disadvantage, the first disadvantage, and another negative aspect. Then to introduce points or arguments for or against, you can use phrases such as one point in favor of something is, or one argument in favor of is, then also a further common criticism of something is. It could be argued that something is often claimed, suggested. It is widely argued, maintained that, generally felt, believed, held. So while writing introduction, it's good to keep in mind the funnel method. So when you write an introduction, you have to start with a broad general statement. Must connect to the topic of the essay, and then you kind of gradually narrow down the information. So after general statement, you kind of provide general introductory remarks, and the very final sentence of your introduction has to be thesis statement. So I think now Inessa will take on explaining how actual introduction is written. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I hope that you can hear me. I will explain how to write an introduction and then conclusion, and then give you an example of a for and against essay. Now, I believe that apart from the main part of the essay, introductory and conclusion parts are those parts that let you indicate that you understand the task correctly and express your opinion or do not express your opinion in certain ways that show that you know that it is a for and against essay apart from the opinion essay. Now, before I begin, it's important to say that, useful to say that I checked the previous exams of English language, and I saw that from 2010 to 2019, only opinion essays were prevalent. That means no advantages or disadvantages, no for and against essays were used in the task, except from the 2020 when the for and against essay was introduced for the first time. I don't know about earlier years. I did not check them, but I believe that it could be a start of a new paradigm, of a new tendency to give for and against essays to write. So there are great chances that this essay will be given to you this year. Okay, so let me begin with introduction. And I think that the adequate number of sentences is 3. I think that if you write more, it will make a paragraph too big and too detailed in a way. So my suggestion would be to remember that you have to stick to 3 sentences in the introduction, because it does not have to be too long. And by sticking to that number, you will plan your essay better in this way. Of course, it is really, really important to remember that you do not state your opinion in the introduction, apart from the opinion essay, which I believe you state your opinion in the first paragraph. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that is the case. So this is the main difference between opinion and for and against essays, that in this case, you do not state that. So if we take a look at the structure of the introduction, we see that there are 3 sentences that are presented in a concept of funnel that was presented by Rugile previously. So in the first sentence, you kind of state general information about the matters. You start with something like nowadays or in this modern world and so on, just really, really general information. And the second sentence is more related to the matter that is given in the task. So you present that the statement has major subdivisions. That means people do not agree on this matter, or there are multiple views that prevail, and so on. And the third sentence is really, really related to the topic that is given to you, because in this case, you repeat the given topic. You say, what are the disadvantages, advantages and disadvantages of this and that. So as you can see, it just goes from really, really general to really specific in this case. I have prepared some example sentences of those 3 sentences that you can use in the introduction. So let's take a look at them. So as I mentioned, nowadays in this modern world, in this society and so on, these examples are really common in writing a for and against essay. Now, if you want to kind of stand out, you could use something like according to the latest study. Of course, this means that you have to do some research beforehand and so on. And I think that is not that really necessary, because who knows what kind of topic you are going to get. So it's really difficult to really guess a topic in this way. But if you are an overall passionate person about certain things, and if the topic really correlates with your interests, you can take this chance and cite something. Just really, really briefly, according to the latest this and that study, the amount of people that do this and that, or can be indicated, or you can use certain percentage. Just keep in mind that there's really, really low chances that someone will check the actual information. But if you use something that is really catching a reader's eye and is really interesting and correlates with the topic that you got in the task, you should really consider doing writing such a sentence in the introduction. So there are more examples of really global and general phrases, such as society has mixed feelings about something, and the predominant issue of the modern world is. Another really common example is this. A lot of people think, believe, say that, or as a general rule, many people say this and that. So if it suits the topic you are given, you can use this certain generalization that a lot of people, majority of people, have this or that opinion. Another example is stating that the topic that you are given is rather a controversial one. So you kind of indicate that there are multiple views related to that topic, and you say that is controversial or has some multi-dimensional, possible multi-dimensional views to it. Then we move to the second sentence of the introduction. And as I mentioned, it is more specific than the first sentence. So here you kind of indicate that there are multiple opinions. And as for the first example, there is no doubt that people tend to have multiple opinions. This means that, and then you state something that comes to your mind. But the latest tendencies suggest that. However, related topic is controversial, and so on and so on. So you can take a look at these examples and just kind of take them into consideration if you get the for and against essay for the writing task. And keep in mind that the second sentence, if you use this structure, which is rather useful, just keep in mind that the second sentence presents that opinions can differ and opinions suggest different views and so on and so on. You just have to mention that people are divided into 2 groups, or the opinions are divided into 2 groups, which kind of leads to your third sentence and introduces that the topic is multidimensional. And lastly, the third sentence of the for and against essay is repeating the topic. Now, I do not think that you have to be really creative in this sense. You just kind of repeat what is being said in the task. If it said that you should discuss both advantages and disadvantages of the topic, so you say that. In this essay, both advantages and disadvantages of this and that will be discussed, and so on and so on. So it's just really important that you recognize that it is a for and against essay. And I believe it will be clearly indicated, as it was in 2020 exam, because they said that you should discuss both advantages and disadvantages. That means you do not choose one particular view that you would like to support and give arguments to. It means that you have to keep a balance and to discuss both positive and negative parts of certain matter. So, as other examples show, you can pose a question. You can ask, how do the advantages compare to the disadvantages of this matter? Or you can indicate that in this essay, this will be discussed, or this concept, which is this and that, will be discussed. Again, you do not use pronoun I, because it is served for the very last paragraph, which is conclusion. So you just have to keep. If you keep to this structure, I think that everything will be understandable and comprehensible. Just use these 3 sentences. Now, apart from the main part of the essay, writing a conclusion is also really important. Now, I'm not going to really discuss the main part because you have to be creative in these parts, and I will show one example of an essay, but I think that introductory and conclusion part are the most important parts that you really have to learn how to write, apart from being really creative. So an adequate number of sentences in conclusion are 3 to 4. There you have to state your opinion. So we really have to remember not to use pronouns in the overall essay, because the conclusion part is served for that. So the first sentence, again, you use not that much of sentences because, again, as in letter part, there are not that much space given. So you kind of use 3 to 4 sentences in each paragraph. You can use 4 or 5 in the main part, but the introductory and conclusion part should be 3 to 4 sentences. Now, the first sentence is for general conclusion, if you want to do that, but usually first 3 sentences or first 2 sentences are made for repeating the main arguments that you have discussed in the essay. So you just kind of repeat what you have said in other words, but it is best if you really repeat the main sentences, the main general statements that were given as the first sentences of your main part. And then the fourth sentence is a statement of your own personal position, your own opinion. So apart from discussing the things that have already been mentioned, the last sentence is served for your opinion, which is indicated as, in my view, in my personal opinion, in as I see it, and so on and so on. So it is the very last sentence of the whole for and against essay. Now I'm going to give you some examples again, as for introductory part as well as the conclusion part. So as I mentioned, you could really generalize the matter and state in one sentence about something about the topic in general. So the first and the second, yes, and the second examples are just that. So in conclusion, some kind of topic is rather a controversial matter. Then, all things considered, this topic is usually perceived as something controversial, multidimensional, and so on, so on. So you just kind of use the first sentence to indicate the division between people, between views, or between the advantages and disadvantages of the matter. If we take a look at following examples, you can see that there is no doubt that it can be said that you could write the first argument that you have used in the main part of the essay, as you can state that this and that, or certain matter is positive, or there are its advantages, but on the other hand, it is kind of lacking, it has disadvantages, and so on and so on. So if you stick to that structure, I think that conclusion again will be comprehensive. I will give some more examples so it will be more clearer in this way. And this last example is to conclude there is evidence both to support and refute the view. So it's more general, and you kind of indicate the controversial part of the topic that is being given to you. Now, the repeating of arguments, that is the very crucial part, that you repeat what you have said. So it really is the essence of the conclusion. So you say such examples as, such sentences as, however, the disadvantages of the matter are, in addition, this matter could be perceived as something because of the reasons that you have given. Although, for example, this matter has its advantages, one must admit that there are still disadvantages or some drawbacks and so on. Just do not be afraid to use certain synonyms in this case, because you have to state what you have said in other words. Also, nevertheless, when the situation is this and that, this could be related to the global matters, because if you discuss something that was in certain state before, let's say pandemic, so you can say that the matter seems to shift when, for example, business closed and so on and so on. So you just kind of indicate the differences between the time when certain topic is being discussed and the situation. So it really depends on the topic that you are given. And then we move to the last sentence of the essay, which is made for expressing your opinion. So just really simple examples, such as, personally, I believe that the way I see it, for the mentioned reasons, I firmly believe that. Lastly, I personally would say that. So the lastly is not really necessary, but you still can use it. So in this case, of course, you use the pronoun I, just expressing your opinion in the last sentence to show that you understand the scheme, the structure of the for and against essay, and then you choose one of the positions, one of the views that you have before stated in the main part of your essay. Now, for and against essay topics may vary from, things that you do not care about, to really interesting matters such as politics, economics, and so on. Now, I do not believe that they will give really difficult topics in this case, because you do not express your opinion that clearly, and you remain consistent in that in that sense that you have to use examples from the real world. So in this case, I do not believe that topic will be difficult. So as we can see, the first example is taken out from the 2020 exam, which asked to discuss both the advantages and disadvantages for school leavers of live lessons held online. So as you can see, it is really clearly identified that you have to discuss both advantages and disadvantages. If it is the case of opinion essay, you will be asked to choose one, whether something is positive or negative. And in this case, you give two arguments, which mean two different paragraphs that support your opinion. However, if you're asked to give both positive and negative meanings or positions, then you write for and against topic, for and against essay. There are some more examples, such as reality TV shows are good entertainment, so it means that you have to discuss they are good entertainment because, and they are not, or bad entertainment because. And the third example is internet is bad for young people. So in the first paragraph, you would argue that yes, it is bad, or and in the second main part paragraph, you will argue that it is good for young people. Now the last example is do qualifications bring success? And I will show you an example of this particular essay. Okay, so we can see that in the first paragraph, a really global and generalized sentence is given. Educational qualifications are often seen as a way to success. So as you can see, are often seen is another way of saying a lot of people think. And for this reason, an increasing number of young people are pressured into cramming for exams. So in this sentence, you kind of state a certain position that is really global and is known for a lot of people, and that a lot of people do share such position. In the second sentence, you state that there are multidimensional views, that there are some people that do not agree, and so on. In this case, it is written that, however, the definition of success does not necessarily mean a well-paid job. And the third sentence indicates the topic of the essay. You do not write a pronoun again, and you are using such sentences as, in this essay, the advantages and disadvantages of qualifications are going to be assessed, are going to be evaluated, discussed, and so on and so on. Then the first paragraph of the main part of the essay begins and goes on with certain identifications of what you are going to say in each sentence. So for example, to begin with, in addition, finally. So you just kind of clarify again that you understand the structure of a paragraph. You begin with a generalized phrase which states one opinion, one position. So in this case, to begin with, qualifications open a wide range of employment options, so really generalized. Then in the second sentence, you give an example. Opportunities for career development in certain professions, such as, so as for example, and so on. Such as means you give examples. Such as medicine and law are often available to those with the highest qualifications. Then you add something else to the main generalized topic, that sentence that you have indicated in the beginning. Then you add finally, as to indicate that you are finishing this paragraph, of course, and that is your last argument supporting the position that you indicated. Then you say, in contrast, on the other hand, and so on and so on. I believe that you learned a lot of certain linking words that do express the other opinion or the other view of certain matters. So in this case, in contrast is being used. Some believe that academic qualifications do not guarantee success. So you kind of state the disadvantage part in this sentence. Then again, you give examples. There are many examples of people such this and that who have left the university and still went on to have astonishing success. Then you give another two examples, but two additional positions that support your main idea why qualifications do not guarantee success. So it can be said that true passion, self-belief, determination are more important. Also, one can prosper in a lot of areas of life when one is required to have talent, and so on and so on. So the structure overall is really, really simple of the main part. That's why I'm not giving you certain examples, because you kind of state what you're going to say, then you're going to give examples, and then some additional arguments that support your main idea, whether it's about advantages or about disadvantages. Then we move on to the conclusion, and you state really generalized sentences in this place. You kind of repeat what has been already said. So in the first sentence, we see that it is written, all in all, academic qualifications seem to open a lot of opportunities and a career path. By indicating seem, you kind of predict and kind of show that there are a lot of other views that prevail. Then you indicate nevertheless, however, so on. When a person is determined and passionate, they can achieve more than a diploma might ever offer. So there is an indication of the second main part paragraph. And then, as I mentioned before, in the last sentence, you state your personal opinion. So it really doesn't matter whether you choose the disadvantage, potential disadvantage part, but it's important that you state your opinion, but only in the last sentence. In this case, in my view, the personal qualifications and charisma are more important than academic results. So we state that really clearly. So to conclude, I would say that you just kind of need to be really creative in a sense when you're writing an essay, especially in the main part of it. However, you need to stick to certain structures, especially in introductory and conclusion part, because from these parts, an examiner will see and understand whether you see the differences between for and against essay and opinion essay. So once again, I want to highlight that in the introductory part, you do not say your opinion, and you mention it with your pronoun I in the very, very last sentence in the conclusion part. And I believe that is all that I have to say about the for and against essay. Is there anything that my colleague Regila would like to add?
Not really. I think everything was really clear. And as you said, with for and against essay, you just have to be really creative and also try to stick to very specific things, because I don't think also that you have a lot of words for this essay. I think it's like 180. Inessa might correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it is at least 180.
Yeah. So, and I think the lines given are not. There are not so many lines given. So, I mean, in every essay, it's quite important to be very specific and don't wonder too much. But I think Inessa also mentioned that. So yes, I think that is it. And also, if you have any questions, you can find us. We are in the same Facebook group, so you can text us whatever, and we can try to answer your questions if you have any.
Yes, of course, I agree. Okay, so thank you for your attention, and that would be it.
Goodbye.